The Shadow of What Was Lost, the Licanius Trilogy. Stick around. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Three River Books. So I just finished this and I'm actually already on my second volume of the Licanius Trilogy. Now, if you don't know, this book has been around for a while, so I know I'm just playing catch up, but there are still some people that might want a different opinion about what this book is and what it is not. Now, if you don't know, James Islington or Islington, I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name, but I think he's an Aussie. I love this book. I notice a lot of people that want to say that, oh, this is like the Wheel of Time and it has a lot of very similar tropes. Yeah and no. This is not the Wheel of Time. First of all, it's only 3 books. What you should know is this started as an indie publisher, so this was a self-published book, and somebody picked it up, Orbitz picked it up, and then he wrote the second and third book. So this is a trilogy, and I have all 3 books. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to review this book with as least amount of spoilers as possible, and talk a little bit about what I love about this book and what I do not. All right, so first things first, guys, this thing starts off in a school. All right, so sort of like a hometown school, but it is a school of magic. And it's the first time that you run into Davian. Davian's going to be your main POV. There's a bunch of different characters in there, but Davian's your main guy. Davian starts off as someone that is probably not supposed to be at this school. This school is supposed to be for the gifted, i.e. one of the magic systems in there are the people that are gifted and they could use essence. Essence is sort of the surrounding world that they can take into their body and use it for light, use it for power, use it for explosions, that kind of thing. And inside this school, you are going to be tested if you are gifted. They give you a little bit of training, and then if your training's not good or it's not going well, you have to be tested at some point in time. And if you don't pass the trials, what they do is make you a shadow. A shadow is the lowest form of somebody in this social structure. Okay, so you have the administrators, which are sort of at the top, and I'll get into that in a second. You do have the gifted, you do have augurs, which would have been at the top, and then you have the shadow. The shadow are people that could not make it as gifted, and they do this thing where they put something on your neck and it takes all away your powers and you can no longer feel the source. All right, sounds kind of familiar, right? And then those people are just like servants and, you know, live in tunnels and weird shit like that. So, okay, fine, no big deal. But Davian has special powers where he can figure out when people are lying to him, and unbeknownst to him, that he has all of this locked up inside of him. He doesn't really know how to use it, but he knows he's going to fail the trials. So instead of failing the trials, he escapes the school. As he escapes the school, lo and behold, with one of his friends, Weir, they try to run away because he's like, listen, I'm not going to be a shadow. I'm going to take some money. I'm going to get out of here. I don't want to live my life as a shadow. I'll just go somewhere else. And as soon as they leave, luckily they leave, somebody attacks the school and starts murdering a whole bunch of people. So, all right, there's a spoiler for you. But again, this is pretty good stuff. So before I go any further, let's get back into the social structure. Now, the social structure is very simple. The augurs used to be the most powerful magic creatures in this world, in this realm. And right below them were the gifted. The gifted were sort of people that can use a different power, but the augurs were very much relied upon. They could explain what's going to happen next. All their visions come true. They have visions where they can tell the future. So you could see where kings and queens and people of power would want this type of service. They also said that the North Wall, sound familiar, has a bunch of bad folks on the other side of that. And eventually what's going to happen is that wall's going to crack. And then all these bad dudes are going to come through and they're going to start wiping out everybody. So they posted a bunch of guards there for years and years and years, and nothing happened. All right, so people lost faith in it. There also was an abuse of power between politicians and people, and there was a huge revolt between the augurs and the regular civilian populace. Well, It didn't go very well, and the civilian populace decided, all right, well, if you want to continue to be in our realm, we're going to put you under a lot of restrictions. All right, so the restrictions are the tenets. They call them the tenets, where the magic users, either gifted or augurs, are not allowed to use their powers in any way. They have to go to the school to be tested. They have to be constantly used, but they're also very much abused. They are the lower half now, and it's all run by the administrators, and the head administrator is the top dog now. So it switched from people with power to people in office, and the administrators are the ones that dole out all the power. They dole out all the jail sentences, or like if you cannot be trusted, or you cannot pass your trials, then what they're going to do is they're going to make you a shadow. All right, so it is a lot of different classes that you kind of have to contend with, but it's pretty easy to follow along with. So let's talk about some of the other main characters. All right, Caden winds up in the middle of a forest. This is how he opens up. Caden winds up in the middle of the forest. He doesn't know who he is. This is all after you meet the three main characters, which is going to be Weir, that escapes the school with Davian, and also Asha. All right, Asha. Those are the three main characters. Caden is just another guy that just winds up in a forest. He winds up being arrested for a whole bunch of murders. They don't really know who he is, and his memory's been erased. Now, one of the things that they can do with this magic power is erase your memory. All right, so they all find each other in the forest. Now, remember, you have two characters that are already on the run. Asha winds up being subjected to the administrator because she was the only one that was not attacked. They also have a couple of beings in there that kind of reminds me of the ring rates. I don't know if that makes sense to you, Lord of the Rings, but there are ring rates. There's 4 of them, and they actually managed to kill one. These two kids, and another character that used to be part of the administration is no longer there. So there's a lot of plot twists. Also, the head administrator is one of the guys that was dead set against the gifted, dead set against the augurs, and he's the one that laid down the law and set up the tenets. Well, lo and behold, his son winds up being gifted, born gifted, all right, and he's also royalty. So he tries to hide that, right? So there's a whole bunch of plot twists going on. You have a couple of young kids going on a journey, right? Makes sense. Then one of them happens to be the quote the one, which is Davian, that we find out later. And he is able to do what's called time travel. Now, I know some people don't like time travel. I don't have a problem with time travel, and it was done very, very well in the book. He's able to do some time travel. And again, remember, this is post-war. This is post the rebellion, okay? So Davian wakes up. When you first meet him, he has this huge scar on his face. He winds up being a servant at the school, and they find out that he has everybody has to be tested at a certain age, and he knows he's going to fail, so he leaves. He flees with his buddy Weir, and they go on this trip. He runs into a bunch of people in the forest. They wind up finding Caden, and Caden has all these superpowers, but he doesn't understand how he does it as well because his memory's been erased, right?
Chapter 32, pretty good. So what we're getting to is Davian is still in Delanis. I want to say that right, Delanis. Delanis is the cursed city, or the cursed town, where he finds Malash. Malash is the Obi-Wan or Gandalf type person that teaches Davian how to use his powers. Now, there are 2 powers. One power is the gifted, where they use essence. Essence is like the life force. A life force is internal. You can use it to do other things, like you can move objects, you can use brightness, you could sort of like Gandalf's staff, where he makes powers and light. You can make fire, all that stuff. And then there's another power, which I believe just the augurs can use, which is called Khan. Khan is external. So Khan is sort of like a taker of essence. Now you can use both of them together, but they don't necessarily go together. So you can use Khan to take essence, and you come to find out that you can also use that to read people's minds. You can tell when people are lying. So they do all this type of training where he says, hey, tell me if I'm lying. So Davian and Mahler sit there, and Davian's trying to read his mind, and they go through all these drills. Every time you see Malash, though, he's called a changer, a shape changer. So he's different every time you see him. They are stuck for a couple days in this town or in this training in this building. And Davian doesn't leave. He sits there in the library and reads to try to figure out how or what he is.
After he gets trained up, after Davian gets trained up, they decide what they're going to do next. They all think Davian's dead, but he's really not dead. They all meet at this one location called Ilian, I believe it is. I think it's Ilian. Ilian's like the major city. And they know that the North Wall has now broken, and they are coming. The other baddies are coming to get them. They're going to burn down the city, all of this stuff. And they actually, at the end of the book, have this huge battle scene, which is fantastic. They do have the augurs, the gifted, the administration, and the shadow all pull together at the end of the book to get this major fight. And again, Caden, the guy that woke up with no memory, winds up being one of the strongest guys out of all of them. And then they wind up defeating the enemy, but they know it's not over. So after a month or so of healing their wounds, they come out with book 2. All right. So I'm still getting into book 2, just so you guys know. I'm going to read the whole series. Some of the things that I loved about this series is it was very, very easy to read. It looks like a big tome, but it's super big letters. Guys, this is super big letters. So you can like breeze through this. I'm also using the audiobooks. They're available on Audible. And here's what I liked about it. The book is an easy read. It's not much in world building, but the characters are believable. It is a very simply written book. And I think a lot of people get so caught up in the token-esques or the Wheel of Time. I don't need to read 15 books. By the way, they're up here. I don't need to read 15 books to get a good story if I can get it in 3. And I think that's one of those things where it's sort of like a fantasy snob kind of thing. Maybe I'm wrong. You could put it in the comments down below. But I liked the book. It was very simple. Yes, there were some problems with it. There's some things that didn't kind of match up, and I get that. Again, remember, for somebody that wrote this book as a single author, that big, that's how big it comes, right? This big. It's like you or I that are doing a video sat down for a month and wrote this book and then got it published, and then Orbitz picked you up. That's an amazing feat in itself. And then Orbit said, you know what? We're going to make it a trilogy. Can you make it a trilogy? Yeah, sure, no problem, right? So that put James Islington on the map. So love him, hate him, whatever. That's a pretty big accomplishment for one writer, okay? Again, not big on world building. Characters were good. They were believable. I didn't need 70,000 characters, right? Like these big, huge tomes with all these big stories, they have so many characters I can't keep count. But this is good because you have intrigue. You have the administrators, which is like the royal class. Like the administrators and the king is up here, and the administrators is downtrodden on all these magic users. But then at the end, they need the magic users because they're all going to get run over by these dudes from the north that are going to destroy them. And then the shadows figure out that, yes, although they don't have magic powers, they can use other items to help them get their powers or just to use them. You start learning how these different types of people or different classes of people learn to progress through the story and become better. Yes, there is going to be political intrigue. Yes, there's not so much of a love story, but it's kind of hinted that he likes her and she thinks he's pretty and all this other stuff. No weird gratuitous sex, none of that stuff, but good enough. All right. So it's like, hey, listen, she likes him. Hey, listen, you're a king or you're a queen or hey, listen, you're a prince. All these people like you because, you have power and there's going to be arranged marriage, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't happen. They're like, all right, yeah, they mention it, a couple things. Hey, maybe you should get on this. Okay, I'll figure it out. All right. So I did like the book. I would recommend it. Again, this is my opinion and my opinion only, but I would say I'm going to put the link down below if you're interested in this book or in the trilogies. I would definitely say pick it up. It's an easy read. big book, but big words too. It's not that hard to read, and I really did like this book. So I'm going to give this book, again, 4 out of 5 stars, 100%. You know, and again, the only reason that I would say that it didn't get a 5th star was just because some things didn't match up, and that's okay. Again, for a first-time author. Now, I do hear that the second and third books are even better, and as far as the second book, I'm already like 6 chapters in, has a lot more world building. It just tells you where things came from, why we learned a little bit more about Caden, why he is the way he is. We open up his memory. There's all these like little secret travel portals that people can use. Time travel is a big thing, and you start to learn how these powers affected different people. And I do believe there's going to be some soul moving around. So sort of like the Wheel of Time, if you've ever read it, where Rand can take up another person's body. That's sort of how it is. All right. Hopefully you read the Wheel of Time. I didn't spoil it for you. But again, you can use this power because they say that there's guys in this book that are 5,000 years old. How do you do that with one body? Right. So kind of throwing hints at you. But highly recommend, guys. I hope you appreciate this video. Please like and subscribe. I'll put the links down below if you like this. Also, become a Patreon member. It only costs you $1 a month to watch videos like this before anybody else. Thank you very much, guys. And as always, keep reading.